Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show tonight. My name's Veronica, and I'm here in Sydney, Australia. So welcome to everyone around the world in all the different countries, wherever you're watching from. And tonight we've got a very special guest from Belfast in Ireland, and his name is Padraig. So I just wanted to welcome you today and welcome you to the podcast and enjoy the fact that you're here with us for this night. Actually, it's not daytime here, it's nighttime. But thank you so much once again for coming on the channel. Really appreciate your story. Everyone's interested to hear more about what happened with you. And would you like to start telling us a little bit about what happened to you with Mother Mary?
Way back in 1981, I was in prison in Belfast, an old Victorian prison. And I was on remand, sentenced for having a blast bomb. It's like a small hand grenade. I was gonna use during the war here.
Yeah.
I'd lost my faith when I was 19, that's 2 or 3 years, and I was a complete atheist. I'd become disenchanted with politics, and all that I was doing, I was full of it, an awful lot of it, and I decided to kill myself. But I didn't want to burden my family with me committing suicide, so I decided to make it look like an accident. I was going to put my electrics in the prison cell and electrocute myself. But I went into the prison cell one night, and just before I was going to do it, I looked down on the ground and I saw an old newspaper cutting a picture of St. Padraig on the ground. I picked it up and looked at it, and I said to myself, I saw the stigmata. And I said to myself, that old fool lost those swing screwdriver. But I thought about it, and I said definitely that I had to hide it. Why did it never become impacted over so many years? And I couldn't explain it. And so finally, I says, I got out of bed, thinking about it. The ladies went out, and they said, God, prove to me whether you exist or not in the space of one Hail Mary. And if you don't prove to me that you exist, I'll just go ahead and kill myself. As soon as I said Hail Mary, I looked at the end of the bed, and our Blessed Lady was standing there. And I just started to cry. And it's just incredible, you know. I mean, it just blew my mind, you know. I didn't say anything, and our lady said to me, "Now do you believe?" And I just nodded my head. I couldn't say anything. Of course I believe, because she's standing there, you know. And then she says to me, "Faith without love, faith without forgiveness is vain. Now do you forgive?" And she started to show me pictures of all the different people that I hated, one after the other. And every time a picture was shown to me, she asked me the question, "Do you forgive? Do you forgive? Do you forgive?" And this went on for quite a while, because I had loads and loads of people that I hated. And eventually at the end of it, our lady said to me, "Now, is there anybody that you don't forgive? Is there anybody that you hate?" And I said, "No." And it was just a great feeling of relief, because it was only then that I realised what a burden my hate had been, and I just felt light as a feather, because I had let it all go. As St. John says, any man that says he loves God and hates his brother is a liar, and the truth is not on him. And that's what killed my faith, hatred, you know. So then she said to me, prayer is the bread of faith. Pray the rosary. She held the prayer rosary beads out to me, and I was embarrassed then because I just had to say to her, I've forgotten how to say the rosary. And she said to me with great firmness, I myself will teach you. And then she was gone.
Wow.
And, I was a totally changed person after that. That was so many. Maybe 1981, and I've just gone ahead and wrote a prayer since. But after she went, she did teach me to pray the rosary. She taught me to pray it very, very slowly and think about what I said. And because I was in prison, I had lots of time to pray. Sometimes it was in solitary confinement, so it was all in one for months. And by the time I left prison, I was praying the rosary pretty well non-stop. So I went down to see my spiritual director, up to Father Bernard O'Donnell. He was a passionist priest, he's dead now. And he was the very first person I told about saying Our Lady. And I was concerned because I didn't think anybody would believe me. Why does she believe me? And it does sound terrible, but the spiritual director believed me right away. And I was relieved, but I didn't tell anybody else about it for years and years and years later because, again, I didn't think anybody would believe it. But when I did start to tell people about it, I've never really found, it was only the Catholics, you know, and I've never found anybody who didn't believe me. I don't know. I always expect people not to believe me, but they always do. So then about a year and a half, 2 years later, I entered the Cistercian monastery. And I told the abbot what had happened to me. And I was in the Cistercian monastery for 3.5 years until I was suddenly professed. And then one night when I was praying, I felt the Lord telling me that He wanted me to go back out into the world again. So I have. But I'm still the same. I still pray. I still pray the way I really told me, you know.
Well, that's an incredible encounter. And I'm sure many people around the world would want that, what you've had. They would want that experience. And so it's a great grace and a great blessing that Our Lady came to you in that darkest moment when you didn't even want to live anymore. You finished, you were at the end, and she came to rescue you, didn't she?
Yeah, she came to me not because I'm a good person, not because I was a good person, but because I was a bad person. She came to me not because I was a saint, but because I wasn't a saint. She came to me as a mother because I needed her. And I was at the end of the rope. If she hadn't come, I would have gone ahead. I believe I would have gone to hell.
Yeah.
She saved my life, and she saved me from hell. You can't really ask better than that there, you know.
Do you think it's all the prayers and masses that were said in your family as well? Like you growing up, you would have been a Catholic and baptised, but you would have said a lot of prayers in your younger years and going to all that masses, and your mother as well. I mean, that's got to count for something. And so I think Our Lady must have took pity on you, and considering your family background, and you were in the war and you were doing it for what you thought was the right reasons.
I think if it wasn't for mothers, nobody would be in heaven. I put it down to the prayers of my mother. She was a very devout Catholic. So was my father. He was very devout too. But you see, the reason why I started to dip was because of my mother, by accident. She never really did it herself. But one time, my father was interned. He was imprisoned without trial. There was no courts, no jury. He was just taken away. And then my older brother, he was beaten up by the parachute regiment, and he was interned in a prison without trial. And my mother went to see him in prison, and she saw him badly beaten up, and he'd cigarette burns. And one of the warders told my mother he was the worst beaten up prisoner he'd ever seen out there. The ship was a ship he was kept on called the Maidstone. It was for people that were interned. And I said to my mother after she saw him, how do you feel? And she says to me, if I had a gun, I would have shot them. And that's the only time in my life that I ever heard my mother talk hatefully about anybody. But she was under a lot of stress. But it was the moment that she said, if I had a gun, I would have shot them. The hatred entered my heart that I began to hate, truly hate, because I loved my mother so much. So it was the only slip she made that way, but it was because of that slip that I truly started to hate, you know. But I'm not making excuses for myself. You should never hate, but I've plenty of human reasons to hate. I mean, our house was constantly being raided by British soldiers. My father was in prison without trial, and he would never get a trial. And my brother was interned in prison. So I was the oldest left of the family. And I seen our area constantly attacked, houses being burnt, and people being beat up, people being murdered and tortured. So it's hard to explain. I'm not making excuses for it, because a Christian should never love, but there was an awful lot of temptations to hate, you know. So maybe that's part of the reason why Our Lady came, the kind of made some allowances for me, you know, and haven't.
You know, it's so understandable when you look at the history of what's been happening in your country and what you went through. Here in Australia, we have absolutely really no idea of those things because we've never lived with it. But when you hear your story and the absolute horrible times that you lived through, all of those Catholics in Belfast and went through all of those trials, it's so understandable to me that this would happen to you and that you'd be, you know, atheistic for one thing, you lost your faith, to see all that drama and torture. I mean, it's just so hard. And then for our Blessed Mother to come to you like that and to be there for you, you would have felt so loved at that time and forgiven after everything that's happened. And I guess that's what really changed your life, her love for you and acceptance.
Well, there was one of the visionaries in Medjugorje, I think it was Visca, said to Our Blessed Lady, why are you so beautiful? And Our Lady said to Visca, I'm beautiful because I love.
Yes.
And many people say to me, what did Our Lady look like? But it's not really about what Our Lady looks like. It's about what Our Lady is. What Our Blessed Lady is love, walking, complete and absolute open love. And she said to another visionary, I think, if you knew how much I loved you, you would die of joy. So meeting Our Lady is like getting close to the fire of love. She's the spouse of the Holy Spirit, and that fire burns the ice of hate in your heart. It's impossible to hate in her presence. You don't have to hate the whole to hate in her presence. Her love makes us love. She warms us up. And as to the war in Ireland, I was talking to an English priest one time. He said to me, I can't understand how a good person like you could have got involved in all this here. He says, why did you do those things? And I said to him, imagine in England during the Second World War, the Germans had won the war and they had occupied England. And I says, English people didn't accept the occupation and went out to fight the German soldiers. Would you think they were wrong to do so? And he said to me, now I understand. As you said to me, you can't really understand until you walk in somebody else's shoes, you know. Unless that happens, you're kind of lost with it, you know.
And you can understand our Blessed Mother, understanding the human nature. When people are pushed to the end of their tether, you know, that you were pushed so far, you and your family and all the people living in the towns there, under extreme persecution, extreme problems. Of course you're going to react. You're human. You know, this is a human reaction and response that you had to that stress. And I think the beautiful thing about this story is our Blessed Mother loved you still, despite all those problems. And I think this is what all of us need to remember, that none of us are perfect. We all have problems, but the fact is she loves everyone. Even if they're not Catholic, she still loves everyone because they're her children. Yes. And that's why she came to you, because she knew your story. She knew that in many ways it was completely understandable what happened to you, and that she loved you back to life. She came to love you back so that you wouldn't lose your life, that you keep your life, because life is so precious, as we know. And now you're here telling the story all these years later to encourage others and to give them this chance to know that it's real. You know, a lot of people don't believe our Blessed Mother's real, or they don't honour her. But with you sharing your story, it gives a chance for people to see that she's real, you know?
Yeah. Well, this is the feast day of St. Thomas the Apostle.
Yeah.
Church, in talking of St. Thomas, talks about peace, culpa, happy thought. Because St. Thomas didn't believe, we can believe. And I don't think that you can, the further you fall, the more you raise. I don't think you can get to the top unless you reach the bottom. And I had to reach the bottom before I could. I was a Catholic before all this happened, before I lost my faith. But I was never really a real living Catholic like I am now. Now I pray constantly. I go to Mass every day. I'm constantly happy, constantly joyful, constantly at peace. I never had that before I saw Our Lady. So
that's the gift, isn't it? That was the gift that she gave you.
Yeah. But I think I had to fall before I could get up. I needed to fall to kill my pride, because there's no pride when you want to kill yourself. When you want to kill yourself, you're at the rock bottom, and there is no pride. You despise yourself. So because you're a great, great sinner and have no pride left, it's easy for Our Lady to pick you up. She had to wait for that moment when I'd given up in order to lift me up like a baby in her arms, because all the pride was gone, you know.
Mm-hmm. And that's what a mother does, right? A mother loves her child no matter what it does or doesn't do. And this is the message I think we need to get out to all people, that, you know, despite what we've done or who we've become, you know, she's always there. So if we say a Hail Mary prayer, sometimes, you know, I'll just see some need or a person I've met or something like that, and I'll say a Hail Mary for them, just a Hail Mary prayer, knowing that she's there, that she'll do something about it. I mean, I can't always do what I want to be able to do for these people, but just a Hail Mary prayer, just the thought of our Blessed Mother looking after that person.
If she helped me, she helped people.
You don't know this about me, and I haven't talked about this online very much at all yet, but 20 years ago, I was homeless in Sydney with my daughter. She was 9. And I was going through a terribly hard time in my life. I was kind of desperate and at the end of my tether as well. And it's a big story. And obviously our testimonies are very complex and they're big stories. So what happened was I ended up staying at St. Joseph's Convent here in Sydney. And that was a great blessing because we had nowhere to go. And I was very crushed by this experience. I was very upset and I didn't know what was going to happen. Now, up to that point, I didn't really have any idea about Mary, the Mother of God. You know, it wasn't something I knew about. I was going to Mass every week, but I wasn't really interested in the saints or Mary, the Mother of God, that much. And I'd been brainwashed against the Catholic faith because I'd become a Protestant years before. And I'd just come back to the faith a few years before this happened. And so one day I walked down to see this little doorway, and I opened the door, and the statue of Mary there, about 1.5 meters high, on a little table with an open Bible and a chair. So I sat down, and I started praying to her because she was there, and I was desperate, like you, desperate for a rescue, And so not long after that, as you do with a mother, my heart started opening up to her. Within a couple of minutes, I was sobbing really a lot. For quite a few minutes, sobbing my heart out, feeling crushed. And I really didn't know what was happening to me at that time. And white light came out of the statue. Bright white light came out of the statue. And as soon as that happened, I was then in another place. I was no longer on the earth. And I was surrounded by white light. And I was feeling like a tiny baby by that time in her presence. And she was a few meters away from me, standing a few meters away. But like you, she was full of love. She was so motherly towards me, and the love and the beauty that came from her, it's nothing, as you know, like anything to do with this world at all. Yeah. Then I was in a state of ecstasy. So I went from a state of extreme despair to extreme ecstasy in 1 second.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, she was standing right in front of me. With the blue and white fabric, I could see it in front of me, looking straight ahead. I was in so much awe of her that I couldn't look up. And I was just looking straight ahead, taking it all in. But at that point, you're in ecstasy, so you don't really long for anything. You're full, completely full of joy and peace and all of those things. Anyway, the interesting thing too is I didn't have a memory of who I was prior to that. I had no idea what my name was. I had no idea that I had another life apart from that reality, which I find fascinating. That fascinates me. Anyway, so there she was standing there. Then she proceeded to pat me on the head. and then she said, my child, just like a mother would do to a child. It was normal. It felt so normal. And then as soon as that happened, I was straight back in the room.
The thing is, whenever it's over, you're stuck where you are. When I finished seeing her, I was stuck in prison. And when you finished seeing her, you were still homeless. But none of that matters because you've love in your heart, you're happy, so you're able to bear your burden. You're able to carry your cross now. So where you are isn't important anymore. You're just able to accept your sufferings and whatever's going to happen to you. And that gift is it's beyond price, And St. Teresa of Avila says, the way you know a great grace is that it stays with you, that you remember it forever. And I think that's a great sign that these things that happen to us are true, that stay in our hearts, and the effects, the fruits of them stay with you forever. That is the best testament that it's showing them. It must be 40, 44, 45 more years now since I seen her lady, but the effects of it haven't gone away for a single day or a single second, and that is my greatest proof that it's real, and that would be the greatest proof for you, that you carry it in your heart.
Absolutely. It really changed my life because not long after that, my daughter and I were able to get a beautiful place to live. I do believe it was a miracle. I do believe it was our Blessed Mother's intervention. We got a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment not too far away with a swimming pool in the garden. And I didn't think that was going to happen because I had no money. I had no job, and I thought, well, how can I ever get a place to live that's decent? And I wanted a nice place. And this was a modern apartment. And when we got there was a little girl about my daughter's age standing there at the gate, and they became best friends. So it was a wonderful opportunity for change. And our Blessed Mother was all that. She did all that for us. And like you, this is 20 years ago that happened to me. The fruit of this, I think she's been there all along. And even recently, I've started praying the rosary a bit more. I've started going to daily mass again and really pressing in. And I'm seeing somehow she's there more now. Somehow, due to my little actions of getting close to her and wanting that, she's now coming more forward. So I'm even seeing it now. But like you said, it gives you the strength to carry the crosses, to bear the burdens in a way that doesn't harm us, and we're able to continue in our lives with this sort of holier way of living that we wouldn't have had unless she came to rescue us.
No. And it's the same with me in prison. My lawyer told me about 15 years, but what happened was he only got sentenced to 3 years. Because of that, he done time in remand. I was released from prison in 2 months. But the judge who sentenced me to 3 years was a Catholic. He was shot dead after going to Mass a couple of weeks after he sentenced me, which really opened my eyes out, because he was sentencing me to 3 years. He didn't know he was going to kill himself 2 weeks later. And I often think of that judge. You know, he done me a great favour when he gave me 3 years when he could have given me 15 years. But that's the hand of Our Lady too, you know. I mean, she takes care of us materially as well as inside our hearts. But it's the inside our hearts that's important. It's changing us. And it's not really the material, but it's good to get the material things that you get, the swimming pool at the house. That's nice too, but it's not really the main thing. The main thing is, if you're happy and at peace, full of joy, it doesn't matter really what situation you're in, because they can't take that away from you, you know.
Yeah, it's a great gift. It's a great gift to have our Blessed Mother's love and attention and her guidance and her help, because we believe as Catholics, don't we, that it's Mary, through Mary to Jesus. And because I was a Protestant for so many years and they brainwashed me against my Catholic faith, I never thought that I'd become a Catholic again, ever. And so my mother had been praying for me for years, and she came to visit us and asked me to go to Mass. And I was so brainwashed, I said, no, I'm not going to Mass with you. I was quite rude, actually. But she picked a charismatic style Mass that I was kind of used to, that worship. And in one Mass, I came back as a Catholic in one Mass. And it's such a grace to have our faith, you know, it's a wonderful grace. And, you know, even all those years later, so my daughter was baptized when she was 2, and that's around the time we came to the faith. So 7 years later, I'd been a Catholic. I'd been going to Mass. I'd been learning about my faith. But for some reason, I had this brainwashing still against Mary, the Mother of God. So that took 7 years. And even though I wasn't her best friend and I wasn't paying any attention to her at all, not even really believing that she was real, to a great degree, in my reality, she wasn't real. And then for her to rescue me, you know, I didn't deserve that because I wasn't doing anything in that way to her. But she came to me, just like she did with you. She rescued us and delivered us from that terrible, terrible space. Honestly, if she hadn't come to me that day, I don't know what would have happened to me. I just don't know.
I feel really, really sorry for Protestants who don't believe in Our Blessed Lady. I think it's a great, great thing to have devotion to Our Blessed Lady, and all the saints and all the popes have said that. You know, it's it doesn't mean that she takes you away from Jesus. At the wedding feast of Cana, she said, do what he tells you. And that's what she does. She leads you to the feet of Jesus. And that's all she wants to do, is to lead her son. But it's a great road to go to Jesus on. It's the best road. It's the most joyful road. It's the most beautiful road. And it changes everything, so it does. So I would really, if there's any Catholics out there listening that don't have a devotion to Our Lady, I would say give it a try, you know. Prayer is a rosary. It, it just can't be beat, you know. I mean, it's what's brought me on, especially when it's said right. When it's said slowly, thoughtfully, and prayerfully. It's not just repeated words. It becomes like a heartbeat, so that your whole life becomes a rosary.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have our Catholic faith, and to have it taken away from me. Well, I gave it up. I can't say it was taken away from me. I gave it up willingly when I was in my early 20s, and I went to those churches, and I honestly was missing something. I didn't know what it was. I was going through a spiritual, like, identity crisis for a while, and it was a very strange feeling. But of course, I had been a Catholic in my teenage years, and so I was missing the Holy Eucharist. I was missing the Mass. I was missing my Catholic faith, but not knowing that. But then one Mass, and I've read this in the saints' books, it says, they say one Mass can change your life forever. And that's what happened to me, conversion in that Mass. And so there's so much richness in our faith. There's so much there. I mean, you could spend a whole lifetime studying our faith, and there'd still be more to learn. It's rich. It's a very rich faith.
But I think these days, the way it is with the world, you have to lose your faith often in order to find it. Most Catholics that I meet or come in contact with now have lost their faith at some point, because their faith wasn't good in the first place. And so they have to have a need for their faith in order to find it. I mean, I find the faith far, far better after I refound it than I had it before. And,
yeah. Well, people appreciate it. People appreciate some back, isn't it?
I really feel sorry for people these days without faith, especially these days, and especially feel for young people, because it's a very difficult world we're growing up with, and there's so many dangers around us, so many difficulties. Trying to get through life without believing it, at least believing in something, you know. I mean, they believe in governments, but that's what G.K. Chesterton said. The person who does not believe in God will have government for their gods. And like, when you look at the politicians, I mean, to have them as your God, I mean, they're not going to lead you to happiness, you know. Only God can bring you happiness. Only faith can bring you life, you know. I wish everybody could experience the joy and peace that I have and that you have, you know.
Yeah, it's a great blessing. And, you know, I think the more we can share this story about our Blessed Mother and what's happened to us, the better, because I was at Mass a few weeks, or it'll be a few months ago now, I guess, and I heard Our Lady speak to me, and she said, I was saying to her in the Mass, how can I get this story across to others, Mother? You know, all these years I've had this happen to me, and I haven't really told many people at all. And I heard her say, take it to the children. And at that point, I thought she meant children in the school. But now I realise, I think she was saying, take it to the children, to her children, we're all children of God. And I think the more these stories about our Blessed Mother gets out there to people, the more they're going to feel that they might want to try this Catholic faith, or the Catholics be more encouraged to say the Rosary, or more to pray. I think we have had this experience that we need to really try and get the message out there, you know, as much as we can.
I think God has some time, you know. I mean, I never talked about it to anybody for 20 years more. I only talked about it, but I don't think it was time for me to tell anybody else, you know. It was such a personal thing that I never really felt the need to talk to anybody. And if our lady wants you to talk about it, I mean, out of the blue, I was given an opportunity to talk here. But if I hadn't been given that opportunity, I would have been happy not to talk about it. I don't see any need to tell anybody about it because it is really private. But I'm glad that our lady, I take it that our lady wants me to do this, so I do it. It's not like those people that are visionaries that have messages, that our lady comes to give messages to the world. She just came as a personal thing, I think, to help me. And it's good that others could hear it and it might help them, but I would have been happy to just think about it, you know.
It's extraordinary. I'm so happy that you've come on to share this because it's so important. And, you know, even if one person hears your story from this tonight, this channel, this story, you know, that's very wonderful because it could mean that person goes to heaven when they might not have gone.
Yes. Even if it only cheers them up. Even if it only gives them happiness for half an hour, I'd be happy about it.
Well, that will sow a seed. You know, that'll sow a seed and it'll bear fruit because God's in it. God's in it. And the Holy Spirit's in it. And the reason why we're talking tonight is because the Holy Spirit's in this, isn't he? With us.
Yes, he's laughing, dancing.
Yeah. He's happy that two of Mary's children are talking about their experience with her. I mean, this is very powerful and it's very wonderful for me, not only to meet you and to share with you, but actually to share our experiences together. Because how often does that happen? I haven't met many people that I've been able to share my story with and hear that they've also had an encounter with Mary. So this is actually quite a unique encounter for both of us, I think. And this is the other thing I think we can say to the viewers and anyone that's watching is God will use everything, all things for good. So therefore, even if we see world wars and all this stuff that's going to happen, all the prophecies, if we stay close to our Blessed Mother and our Lord, he will bring all for good for us and our families, and we belong to him and our Blessed Mother, so we will be looked after. And I think ultimately this is what we have to keep remembering, telling ourselves as well and reminding ourselves, because with the times to come, if they do get more difficult and the cross becomes heavier, we just have to cling to him and remain faithful and know that he'll bring it all for good in the end, you know?
Yes. He hasn't forgot about us. If Our Lady has to, she'll pick us up in her arms and run with us like a little tiny baby.
Welcome to Mother and Refuge of the End Times. We are thrilled to be releasing our latest prayer book titled The Most Holy Rosary, Prayers and Mystical Meditations of Saints and Seers. The Most Holy Rosary is one of the greatest prayers in the history of the Church, garnished as it is with the testimony of saints and popes. For the last 1,000 years, the only prayers that could be said to be greater are those of the Mass and the Divine Office, yet many still seek ways to enter into the deeper mansions of spiritual richness to be found in this devotion. To assist with this process, Mother and Refuge of the End Times has compiled revelations and meditations from some of the most notable and popular Catholic mystics and saints. These mystics were gifted with first-hand revelations by means of visions and apparitions of the life of our Lord Jesus and his Holy Mother. We have selected some writings from these remarkable revelations to assist in the meditation of each of the 20 mysteries of the Holy Rosary. The main mystic meditations featured are Saint Padraig Pio, Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich, Servant of God, Don Dolindo Rotolo, Servant of God Luisa Picaretta, Maria Valtorta, and others. In addition, this unique Rosary prayer book contains both the Latin and English prayers of the Rosary. It has been originally illustrated by our own Catholic religious illustrator with over 23 inspiring illustrations that will surely lift your hearts in prayer and in fervor. This is a rosary prayer book that will surely be a classic. As always, we thank you all for your continued support of our prayer book ministry and our channel. May God bless you and keep you, and may the Immaculate Heart of Mary be your refuge. Amen.